When I was little, my father was famous. He was the greatest samurai in the empire. He cut off the heads of 131 lords.
Hey everybody, Jerry Williams, aka Greater Sapien here. Thanks for stopping by. Man, oh man, did I trigger a lot of you flat boys with my great serpent eclipse tale. But I have to say, some of the responses have provided me with some nice new targets to add to my body count. A user named Heracles told me that I needed to go after the Flat Earth A-Team and listed off a bunch of names of people and channels I've never heard of with videos that are just unwatchable. So in our exchange, I mentioned that globe deniers deny the existence of gravity because they can't make it fit their worldview. And he whipped out a claim that MIT professor Walter Lewin agrees with the fact that gravity, at least up to a cosmic scale, is electric. I asked for a source of that quote, which he could not provide, but gave a link to a video on the channel Mindshock that he says pretty much said the same thing. This video seems to be a small section of a debate of some sort, and the people shown are someone named Bryant Myers, who seems to be the only globe model supporter there. I don't know anything about him. Someone named Hibbler, whom I have zero knowledge of. There's Jaron, looking pretty healthy after setting himself on fire in that documentary.
Interesting. Interesting, yeah.
That David person, I think, is the guy from Dearth, whom I bodied last week for that comically stupid eclipse model. And the last one, the one who drives this claim, is Wits-It Gets It, who I'd never heard of until Heracles said he was part of the Flat Earth A-Team. Here they go.
There's mass attracting mass. That's not what your model claims. And electrostatics is 10 to the 30. Listen, man, electrostatics is 10 to the 36th power stronger than gravity even claims to be. And then you can look at Walter Lewin from MIT explain to you that all effects observed on the Earth is from electricity or electrics or electrostatics, that nothing to do with downward acceleration or anything observed with how your body is on the Earth or anything.
Okay, stop. So that's the setup. That's the claim. MIT professor Walter Lewin explains that all effects observed on the Earth are due to electricity, of electrics or electrostatics, nothing to do with downward acceleration or anything to do with how our body is on the Earth or anything. And then they play the video.
Notice that there is a clear parallel with gravity. Newton's law of gravity, that the force, which in that case is always attracting, gravity never repels, is the product of two masses. And then you have here the gravitational constant, and again you have the distance square. So there is an enormous parallel between the two. It's a great beauty that electricity acts in a way that is very parallel to the way that gravity works.
This isn't a good start for Wits-It. Lewin just mentioned electricity and gravity as two things that actually exist. If your claim is that Lewin says that it's all because of electricity, why is Lewin saying gravity is a thing right now? Okay, let's move on.
If you compare electricity with gravity, you will see that electric forces are way more powerful than gravitational forces. If now I compare the electric force with the gravitational force, so I divide one by the other, notice that the d cancels. They both have d squared downstairs. And so you will easily be able to show that this ratio is roughly 10 to the 36. So the electric force is 36 orders of magnitude more potent than the gravitational attraction. This teaches you some respect, perhaps, for 802. If these were the only forces that acted on the protons, and you bring them in the nucleus, which has a size of only 10 to the minus 12 centimeters, then the acceleration that the proton will experience is the electric force divided by the mass of the proton, F equals ma, basis of 801. And if you take this electric force, when you make d 10 to the minus 12 centimeters, which is 10 to the minus 14 meters, and you calculate this ratio, you will find that it is 26 orders of magnitude higher than the gravitational acceleration on Earth. 26 orders of magnitude higher. So you wonder what the hell holds the nucleus together? If there is such a tremendous force on these protons. Well, what is holding them together are the nuclear forces, which we do not fully understand. But thank goodness, the nuclear forces are not part of 802. So I'll leave that alone for now. So what holds our world together? Well, on the nuclear scale, 10 to the minus 12 centimeters, very important are the nuclear forces. On an atomic scale, up to thousands of kilometers, it's really electric forces that hold our world together. The electric forces are way more powerful than gravitational forces. So the electric force is 36 orders of magnitude more potent than the gravitational attraction. It's really electric forces that hold our world together.
You may have noticed that the last few statements were repeats that the editor made. It wasn't extra emphasis made by Lewin.
So he watched his videos, but he didn't understand anything presented? His rebuttals are, we'll get to that. I've seen that. I've heard you say this. I know this. I've taught.
Oh, wait, is this the voice of Mindshock here? They are criticizing Bryant now, saying that he may have watched the video or read the books, but he didn't understand the context, which is laughable because neither Mindshock or Witsit or Hibbler, who was nodding his head in agreement, actually understood the context of what was said and are straight up lying about what was said. First, let's look at the context of these statements. This is from the opening lecture of Walter Lewin's 802 Physics 2 lecture series, which is about electricity and magnetism. And right off the bat, he wants to stress how important electricity is to the world and our lives.
Electricity and magnetism is all around us. We have electric lights, electric clocks, we have microphones, calculators, television, VCRs, radio, computers. Light itself is an electromagnetic phenomenon, as radio waves are. The colors of the rainbow in the blue sky are there because of electricity, and I will teach you about that in this course. Cars, planes, trains can only run because of electricity. Horses need electricity because muscle contractions require electricity. Your nerve system is driven by electricity. Atoms, molecules, all chemical reactions exist because of electricity. You could not see without electricity. Your heart would not beat without electricity. And you could not even think without electricity, though I realize that even with electricity, some of you may have a problem with that.
Oh man, Professor, how right you are. So here's the professor starting at the very top of his lecture explaining how our world and our lives only function because of electricity. And then he goes on to talk about positive and negative charges and the protons in the nucleus of atoms and the electron cloud, and eventually he gets to the comparison of forces of gravity and the electric charge some 35 minutes in. And here our globe-denying friends accurately show what he says about the strength of electric charges and how the force of an electric charge is 26 to 36 orders of magnitude higher than gravity at the nuclear level. And he goes on to say this.
If now I compare the electric force with the gravitational force, so I divide one by the other, notice that the d cancels. They both have d squared downstairs. And so you will easily be able to show that this ratio is roughly 10 to the 36. So the electric force is 36 orders of magnitude more potent than the gravitational attraction.
But in claiming this statement supports their claim, they show two things. They didn't pay attention to the lecture enough to learn some basics, and they chose to lie about what he said. If they had paid attention to the lecture at all, which I did, but I didn't need to because I already knew this, they would have understood that when Lewin talked about the force of electric charge being 36 orders of magnitude higher than gravity, he was talking specifically about the forces between two protons which have a very high charge to mass ratio.
You will see that electric forces are way more powerful than gravitational forces. And the way I can best show you that is by taking two protons which are a distance d apart. Here is a proton, and here is a proton.
They also would have caught the part about how the positive and negative charges in an atom cancel each other out. About 4 minutes into the lecture, he explains how the nucleus has a positive charge and the cloud of electrons has a negative charge. And when there are the same number of protons and electrons, the atom is neutral. There's no net charge.
The nucleus has protons, which are positively charged, and it has neutrons, which have no charge. The positive charge is here with the nucleon, with the neutrons, and then we have electrons in a cloud around it. And if the atom is neutral, the number of electrons and the number of protons is the same. If you take one electron off, you get a positive ion. If you add an electron, then you get a negative ion.
But I know a neutral atom with no net charge still has all of its mass. And when you accumulate more and more mostly neutral atoms, the end result is an object with a lot of mass and little to no net charge. Gravity starts to become more influential than electricity. But the flat boys will say, Lewin said electric forces hold our world together up to thousands of miles.
So what holds our world together? Well, on the nuclear scale, 10 to the minus 12 centimeters, very important are the nuclear forces. On an atomic scale, up to thousands of kilometers, it's really electric forces.
Yes, he did. But he also said on an atomic scale. And so when he says world, you're thinking he means the planet Earth. But in the context of this lecture, I hear thousands of kilometers on an atomic scale referring to the world of our lives. Our nervous system is tens of kilometers. Our electrical grid and our satellite signals are thousands of kilometers, but their function is on an atomic scale. And the other reason I can say he's not talking about the Earth as a planet is the fact that in the very next sentence he mentions planets.
On an atomic scale, up to thousands of kilometers, it's really electric forces that hold our world together. But on a much larger scale, planets and stars and the galaxy, it is gravity that holds our world together.
On a planetary scale, the Earth has more mass and gravity than it does electric charge, for the reasons I laid out earlier. Don't want to believe me? Well, how about Walter Lewin, since you want to claim him as an ally? Because this is where Witsit, Mindshock, and Heracles just straight lie about Lewin's position. Because right after the statement they claim supports them, this is what the original video shows.
But on a much larger scale, planets and stars and the galaxy, it is gravity that holds our world together. And now you may say, that's very inconsistent with what you just told us, because didn't you tell us that D cancels if you compare gravity with electricity?
Yes, but keep in mind that most objects in the universe have only a very small amount of charge per unit mass. The Earth and Mars have each a charge of about 400,000 coulombs. The gravitational force between them is therefore about 17 orders of magnitude larger than the electric force.
So even though our immediate surroundings are dominated by electric forces, including your own body for that matter, the behavior of the universe on a large scale is dictated by gravity.
Look at that. The very next minute of the original video completely contradicts their claim. But they didn't show you that part. That's called lying. Hey, you can disagree with what I claim, but you will never be able to straight up show that I am lying to support my claims. Nowhere in this lecture does Lewin state anything close to what WITLESS here says. All effects observed on the Earth are due to electricity, of electrics, or electrostatics. Nothing to do with downward acceleration or anything to do with how your body is on the earth or anything. That is straight up bullshit. Nothing close to that was said. This guy lied about what Lewin said, didn't understand the basics of a lecture, and is so twisted in his perception that his mind concocted something totally different from the words the man actually said. And you globe deniers eat it up, parrot it, and have the nerve to say that this guy is a flat earth A-team? Well, guess what? Your team sucks. Get another squad.
That's my job. That's what I do. I don't lose. I win. Is there no one on this planet to even challenge me?
Maybe you came by to congratulate me on last night's victory.